What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here, ladies and gentlemen. More runs of the GFS have come out. We've been looking at some more ensemble runs. And what I've been looking at least with the shear, and what I've been talking to with my team on Storms United, the Discord server I run. Either way, if you want to help out, feel free to join. What I've been looking at is the models are showing a little bit more confidence than we have yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and show you what's going on with that. First thing we're going to go ahead and show you is the 0Z run from today. And we're going to go ahead and pull that up. You see this thing starting to organize, develop. This thing is still developing in the Caribbean. Makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. We have another potential hurricane out here in the Eastern Pacific Ocean over here, according to the GFS. I'm not entirely sure how inclined I am to trust that, but this thing continues to strengthen, makes landfall in the Houston area as a 980 millibar hurricane. If we take a look at the 850 millibar heightened winds, that's my apologies. Let me go ahead and take care of that. Yeah, we're looking at a general area of around 80 to 90 knots or so, so about around 85, 90 mile per hour category 1 hurricane, according to this, maybe even a Cat 2 in a couple, and if the winds get strong enough with that, pressure's definitely low enough for that as well. But that's what we're looking at right there according to this run. This thing just moves through and kind of dissipates over Texas. So that's the first run we're talking about over here. Next thing we're going to go ahead and show you is the 6Z run. And the 6Z has something similar happening, organizing, developing in the Gulf of Belize, making landfall in the Cuba peninsula, the tip of Cuba over there. And then continuing to move towards the Florida Panhandle into Alabama, those areas making landfall and moving through as a tropical storm right there, according to the 6Z run. If we go ahead and go back to where it was at the time of where it is right here, we're going to go ahead and pull up those 850 millibar winds right there. We're going to go ahead and show you that. 850 millibar heightened wind showing. Actually, we're going to go ahead and zoom in to an area around the Gulf of Mexico over here. Yeah, we're looking at areas of over 100 knots at 850 millibars over here. So definitely something potentially going on right here, and potentially Category 2 strength with this one. However, it is, once again, too early to really figure that out right now, but things are starting to spice up. And the last thing we're going to go ahead and show you is this run right here. We're going to go ahead and keep this on the 850 millibar heightened wind just to talk about that. You see, this is the most recent run. This thing is organizing, developing, starting to strengthen right here. Once again, makes landfall in Texas around Matagorda Bay, around Port O'Connor, that area, and just stalls there and weakens as time continues to move through, and then moves through Oklahoma, that kind of stuff right there. So one thing I've been taking a look at is the wind shear in a lot of these areas, and the wind shear from the 0Z and the 12Z, I want to go ahead and talk about, because this is where it was at the 0Z. Let's go ahead and pull this to 240 hours out. This is where the 0Z for the GFS was at this time. The shear is not looking that impressive at all over here. If we take a look at the 12Z, this is what we got right here. Now, on the surface, this does look really bad, and it usually is. This is a lot of wind shear right here. But if you take a look at the 0Z again, and then go up to the 12Z, a lot of that shear has shifted further to the north, according to this run, as well as some other recent runs I've been looking at. And what this could potentially do is at first enhance hurricane development, because what that'll do is, if the shear is angled out correctly, it'll actually enhance the outflow that goes through that, and that usually goes clockwise. So if it can do that, it definitely could develop quite rapidly. A good example of this was Hurricane Michael back in 2018, when that was all developing in the Caribbean, went through the Yucatan Strait right here, and made landfall in the Florida Panhandle right there, as that shear was enhancing that development right there. Became a Category 5 hurricane. That's just an example right there, but still it can happen right here. And it stays like that through the time in the Caribbean until it enters the Gulf of Mexico. So interesting stuff going on right there. Now, we're going to go ahead and show you the global sea temperatures, because I've been keeping an eye on these. 29 degrees Celsius all across the Caribbean Sea, where it's potentially going to develop right here. And that Gulf Strait is really starting to show right here. That Gulf Stream is starting to show. 29 degrees Celsius all the way there. So this thing is definitely not stopping warming anytime soon. And once again, we have some very warm waters with this. The warmest on record, I think. And the OHC continues to be very high in the area it is at right here. And if we take a look at the wind shear, where this may initially develop, which is right around here, the wind shear, at least today, is extremely low, which that is interesting right there, and that's likely going to stay like that. So if it can develop, let's say, in this area right here, and do it quick enough, it absolutely could become an established tropical system before it starts getting into that more bad wind shear. Or in some cases, that wind shear could enhance the system's development if it's angled correctly and just blow up from there. But right now, it's just too early to tell, considering how far out this is. It's like, what, 9 to 10 days out by this point? So we're going to go ahead and continue to keep an eye on this. One last thing I do want to talk about, though, are the ensemble runs, because this is something I've been paying very close attention to over the last hour or so, because what I'm looking at with the GEFS, the European, and the GEPS is they're showing some ensemble runs of development. If we take a look at the ensembles out, 11 days, this 276 hours at this point, the ensembles of the 12Z are showing quite a lot of things going on. We're showing a couple scenarios over here, several scenarios over Cuba, moving through Florida right there, and there are some scenarios of a separate system happening in the Caribbean, not the Caribbean, the Eastern Pacific Ocean over there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And we're looking at 972, 93, somewhere around that range right there. And these ensembles are agreeing on development. If we take a look at the GEPS, similar situation is going on with that, except there is that one run that is developing a lot earlier than anticipated, but we are still seeing several ensemble runs developing this stuff going on, although the GEPS mostly has stuff developing in the Eastern Pacific Ocean over here, which may be a potential scenario where all those thunderstorms move into Central America and cross into the Eastern Pacific and develop there, but we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. And the European is, at least at the 0Z, the EPS, is starting to show some signs of development. This is 240 hours out, please keep that in mind, but there is some signs of development going on in the Western Caribbean Sea at 360 hours out. We're going to go ahead and back this up to the 17th of June over here, and we are seeing a few ensembles here and there showing some stuff. So generally, we're getting a little more confident with some of these things that are going to be happening. If that wind shear can continue to weaken or angle in a decent enough way where it could enhance development, you could absolutely see something going on. However, if you want my personal opinion on this, I've been looking at this. I think at the Caribbean Sea, if all these factors develop and the moisture stays where it is now, where it's incredibly moist, you could definitely see a strong tropical storm or a weak hurricane develop in that time. Once it gets to the Gulf, though, it's going to be a bit more complicated, because that's when wind shear becomes more of an issue. That's when dry air becomes more of an issue. So we'll update you here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. And if you want to help us out getting more data, getting more information on this, feel free to join my Discord server, Storms United. Link is in the description down below, or it's in the end screen right over there. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. But with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.